Usually Perry Orth is here on Thursday, but he's here on Wednesday. Tomorrow he will be shopping for his Halloween costume, 16 days away from trick-or-treating. Hey, buddy.
What's going on? And I will not be shopping for my Halloween costume. I've had the same one for 17 years now. I've been the Black Spider-Man for a long time, and I'm never going to change, because back then, and then moved really into college when I was a little bit bigger and more fit, it was tight. Now it's, nice and fits just right. So, I'm nothing like scaring the crap out of my daughter and the dog when I come out and dress in my Black Spider-Man. I'm trying to test their ability to handle pressure and nerves, just in case they ever need it one day.
That's good. That's a great way to do it. I mean, it's very smart of you to do something like that. I wasn't big on dressing up in college, but one year I did throw on Michael Flint's game jersey and put a red wig on, and I went downtown. I thought, nobody's going to know who I am. Literally the first person I walked into before I walked into Dr. Rocco's, this guy goes, "Dude, are you dressed as Michael Flint?" I was like, oh my God, somebody figured it out. It ended up that was a lot of people that night knew that I was dressed up as our favorite redheaded stepchild. All right, Perry, let's talk about Sean. Let's put the personal feelings aside for Lonnie Teasley. We all know he's a wonderful man, and you hate to see coaches get relieved of their duties, fired, however you want to word that. I mean, we've hit on that throughout the week. Lonnie Teasley's a good guy, and he's going to coach football. He's going to continue to coach football, and I hope that he lands on his feet sooner than later for him and his children and his wife and his family. He's given everything he's got to South Carolina. But obviously Shane Beamer felt like they needed to make a change. There aren't many people out there that understand Sean Elliott better than a guy like Perry Orth. Obviously, he coached the offensive line while you were on the team, and then Coach Spurrier stepped aside and said, "I'm out of here." And Sean, it's your club, man. So starting probably with Sunday, but to the fans, it'll be this Saturday when Oklahoma comes in. What will Sean Elliott bring to this group that maybe they weren't getting before?
I don't know what they were not getting before, but I can tell you what Coach Elliott's going to bring. It's a fire and energy that maybe they haven't seen. I'm not entirely sure what practices have been like pre-Coach Elliott, but I know what they are with Coach Elliott, and he is going to get them fired up. I was actually in a group text with a bunch of the offensive linemen that I played with at South Carolina and said, boy, would I love to be at practice this week to just see what Coach Elliott is doing to them. Just because he plays with that fire and edge, and he, back in his normal position and normal role, they've probably had a hell of a Tuesday practice and probably just getting off the field after a hell of a Wednesday. And but that's what you need as offensive line, right? Offensive line's tough, it's gritty, it's physical, but you also have to be smart. You have to know where you're going, who you're blocking, make sure you're cognizant of if protections are changing. But the unfortunate reality is, like you just said, Coach Teasley's a great human being. I've met Lonnie a few times, and he was phenomenal, so friendly. You could tell the players just love him, but whatever the message was that was coming across was not being received and then ultimately executed. And in the world of a performance-based position that these folks are in, if you don't play well and you don't win games, then something's got to change. And that's just the reality of it. You hate to see it, but the coaches know it. The players signed up for it. Everybody, they understand what they're getting into. But I expect us to play better on Saturday. I think that you'll see more unison amongst the offensive line. And to be honest, I think you'll see a little bit more push. I really do mean that. I think Coach Elliott has a way of really just motivating people, not just offensive line. I think he has a great personality off the field. I don't know, JB, if you know Sean. Sean's an amazing guy off the field too, just a good old boy. And but then he brings that competitive edge on the field, which gets people fired up to go run through a brick wall for him.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I mentioned earlier, hey, if you are feeling a little bit uneasy about Gamecock football and trying to find the energy that you need to cheer your team on Saturday at 12:45 when Oklahoma makes their first trip to the Midlands, walk in around 11:45 when he's out there getting these guys ready to go on the field. If you've never seen it, like
Ooh,
if you're new to this thing and you've never seen Sean Elliott with an offensive line group before the game, you've never seen anything like this. This
yeah.
is wild stuff, and you're right, it will provide energy for his players, but it'll provide energy for the fans as well. I hope people will get in there and check that out. All right, when you were playing for Sean as a quarterback, Perry, what did he do that you felt like helped your offensive line perform at a high level, from terminology to scheme? Shane mentioned yesterday there's going to be some scheme stuff that's going to be implemented that maybe hasn't been as much to this point. But what was valuable that he taught to those guys that you played with that could be valuable to this group?
Yeah, I think that he had a way. His messaging was very clear. We knew what the expectation was of each play that he wanted to have called, or each play that we had installed. And then, like I said, I think ultimately he just had that motivating edge to him, where he could kind of do it in a way where it was motivating, but also kind of piss you off in the meantime. Which wanted you to kind of like, and you knew what he was doing. You knew it wasn't like a personal thing, but you wanted to go and take some of that aggression out on the opponent. Obviously, quarterback was a little bit different, but from an offensive line standpoint, that's what I remember vividly of it. But, at the same time, what I really like about Coach Elliott is that, he does do the things from a relationship aspect to build relationships with people. So that way, when he does jump your tail, it doesn't feel personal. And I think that's an incredibly motivating thing too. Sometimes it's, especially in that position, sometimes it's okay to perform with a little bit of fear. It's okay to perform with like, oh God, I better make this block because I really, really don't want to go back to that sideline, and sometimes in that, I think one of the best offensive line coaches for a long time in college football was Rick Trickett out of Florida State. He bounced around a bunch of different places, but he was one of the best, and he was a short guy, but man, he could dig a hole into your chest and making sure that you were well aware of the job that needed to be accomplished. He had a way of getting that message, and that's why I had a long tenure in college football, and Coach Elliott's cut from that same mold.
All right, let's be honest about what we've seen on the ground the last 2 weeks. People can bitch and moan all they want to. They have been substantially better at running the football. I mean, net yards gained on the ground the last 2 weeks, 446. I'd say that's okay. You take when you include the sack yardage and things like that in there, you're going to subtract, I believe it's 71 total yards from that, but that's still a good number. But obviously they haven't been able to throw the football. And last week when LSU, behind a lot of poor penalties, and that's something you were referencing just a moment ago, that's number one. Get this crap cleaned up here. We can't continue to have the pre-snap stuff. But and I think we all agree too, Perry. I'll just take the words out of your mouth so we can kick the can down the road a little bit. That if you're third and manageable or third and short, that puts you in a lot better spot to not be as predictable as they had to be last weekend against LSU. LSU was just sending the house. Gamecocks had no answers for that. So from a concept standpoint, schematic standpoint, what did you see down in Baton Rouge, and what needs to be cleaned up from that going into this game against one of the best defenses in college football? And then how can Sean Elliott help that?
Yeah, well, I would say that the run game wasn't what stuck out. It was obviously the pass pro and some of the communication things that just like where people are dropping back, they're calling for the ball, and the ball's not being snapped in the center. It's like still holding on, like snap it. What are we doing? Little things like that, I think, is where Coach Elliott's messaging, attention to detail throughout the entire week will transcend what just happens in that moment on Saturday. That, in my opinion, is number one. We obviously have talented players, but some of the things just from a form standpoint, and I don't know anything about offensive line technique other than maybe some leverage, and we still seem to play high where it looks like guys are getting underneath us and and driving us back into the lap of Lenoris, which causes some issues. And I know that there was, a few drills Coach Elliott did just watching the offensive line work that helped with pad level. And I'm sure that's a point of emphasis in their practice. But from a run game perspective, I really like the play calling from a run game. I think that, running backs have to make the first guy miss. We've talked about that at length here. But the mix of the gap in zone with quarterback run, I think is super important. And that's what's led to some of the better performance in my opinion. I think doing just one thing, you have to be really damn good at it. And you have to have a very specific type of player to be able to just do gap or just do zone. So yeah, it'd be interesting. Coach Elliott's a zone guy. There's no secret there. But he's a zone read guy, right? That's from his App State days that he brought to South Carolina, and then obviously to Georgia State as well. So I would expect to see a little bit more zone read, and not all game, but maybe a few more plays that you're really either reading, right, that 3 technique or the 5, right? And I don't know off the top of my head if Oklahoma's an odd or an even front, but yeah, where you're reading the end man on the line of scrimmage. And if he pinches, right, you pull the ball and now you're running out the gate. If he stays wide, you give the ball and hopefully get that double team to either hit it on the front side or bend it back on the backside C gap. So there's a couple different things you can do to really alleviate some of that pressure that you get from the run game.
Yeah, to your question there, I'm not going to answer the question, but Shane Beamer, a lengthy response yesterday about Oklahoma defensively and what makes them so good. And he kind of mentioned that, I think, without going into the details, that they do it all. He's like, he said, these guys, they'll go odd, they'll go even, they'll bring pressure here, they'll do this here. They have so much on defense because that's Brent Venables' baby that you've just got to be prepared for. The same thing with Shane Beamer and special teams. Like there's just so much there, and they spend so much time on it. And they're so detail oriented. So obviously it's going to be a difficult challenge for Carolina this weekend. Perry, let me ask you this question. Obviously, I'm probably one of the more brilliant football minds you've ever been around. So I just want to make sure that you agree with me here. No,
I'm acknowledging. I'm agreeing.
just kidding. Last weekend, I felt like personally, they had no answers for most of the pressure that LSU sent, especially when the Tigers D smelled blood in the water or sensed blood in the water. But I did feel like the quick game and the screens and the draws and things like that probably could have been a little bit more a part of what they could have done to offset some of that with LSU. Am I right? Number one, what did you think? And do you think that it will be a point of emphasis moving forward if you do believe that they should implement some of that stuff?
Well, yeah, I think I don't want to beat a dead horse, man, but I think a lot of it comes down to sometimes when you get a new coach in that position group and there's a new message being shared, you could be saying the exact same thing, expecting the same outcome, but it's delivered in a way that's more and better received, and maybe in a manner that's more understandable. And that carries all the way through the pass game, through the run game, through the week of prep. So there are still some things that not a few things, there's a lot that they can still work on, but I've seen a couple of comments out there that I would actually agree with, is that I don't think that they're far off. I don't think that there's like any hope. I think there are a couple of things that this offensive line can do to clean it up. And I think the procedural issues alone take away some of the pressure stuff. And I also think that there are some things that the quarterback can do to help alleviate some of the pressures as well. But it's kind of there are ways in offense, I've learned this more as a coach than as a player. There are things that you can do as a play caller to complement maybe some of the shortcomings that you have on your offense, right? So like we're having a hard time pass pro right now. well, let's throw some screens. I love the screen call run. And I want to say we only ran one, maybe two the other night.
They ran one for sure to phase on, and it worked.
Yeah. So doing things like that, running the old Spurrier catch, look down the field, give the draw, give them a second to everybody pin their ears back and go. Because really, that's what it looks like. It almost looks as if the defensive lines that we're playing are just going upfield as fast as they can and doing things to get underneath them to pass set and then go. I think they would bring a whole new level of comfortability, because right now we are on our heels when in sometimes, and in reality, when you know that you can get the defense on their heels. And the funny thing is with Brent Venables, and I'm glad you said that. I remember talking to somebody, I may have been my dad, when we were getting ready to play Clemson the year I played. And he was like, hey, so like how they looking? Like what blah, blah, blah. Like, because typically you can go and find tendencies of defenses. Hey, they do this. They line up this way. They bring this pressure on third down. And you can kind of develop like percentages like, hey, 80% of the time on third and long, they're doing this, right? So you can really expect that. Brent Venables' defense is not like that. It's like first and third, or I'm sorry, it's like first and or third down or whatever. Say third and long, and teams might be running a Tampa 2 or 2-man. And he's going zero pressure and just bringing the house. Or it's first and 10, and he's rushing 3, dropping 8 to a soft Tampa 2 defense, right? So there is no rhyme or reason as to why he does what he does. In my opinion, maybe there is, but it almost looks like he shuts his eyes, looks at the play sheet, touches the play, okay, we're going to do that. And it was funny because then that year, the next year they played Ohio State in the playoff, and they asked Urban Meyer, they said, hey, what is it about a Brent Venables defense that makes it so challenging? And he said verbatim, he said, there's just no rhyme or reason as to what they do or why they do it. And so sometimes because of that, the big plays they become vulnerable. And I think you saw Texas take advantage of that a few times. But if I were South Carolina, I would study the blueprint for what Texas did. I think they did a lot of good motions. They got Arch Manning out of the pocket, gave him nice, easy throws, but then they also pushed the ball vertically and not drop back and throw a 9 and here comes the grenade, but right, throwing seams, throwing, benders, throwing big routes, pushing the ball and really forcing the issue of the defense. And it worked out well for them because, Oklahoma's struggling on offense big time too, and they're going to come to a hostile environment against a very good defense. And so they've got enough issues on their own to worry. So if we can get to around that 20, 21, 24 points, we're going to have a chance to win the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Oklahoma, I think last weekend was sacked 5 times and Mateer was picked 3 times. He didn't look healthy. Hell, his hand was bleeding in the middle of the ball game. Yeah, it seems to me like they need to get the ball out of Sellers' hands quickly when they're throwing the football. I mean, he's I don't know if it would help him. I'm sure it probably would. Hey, look, you're just going to snap it and throw it here, much more so than you're going to have to read this and read that, and then all of a sudden you got pressure and you're trying to figure out what to do. Because I felt at times last week, some of it his fault, some of it not. He was just totally lost. I just felt like he was just totally lost. Like, I don't know what to do here anymore at this point in time. I mean, it was a pretty miserable feeling. But obviously, as you pointed out, if you're not behind the sticks and you're not making a bunch of mistakes, pre-snap penalties and things like that, a lot of this stuff takes care of itself when you're giving yourself a chance to move the football, right?
Yep, that's right. Yeah, and I think there are things you can do, simplify, formation people to death, and run basic plays that that your team knows well. That was always something that I really liked as a player, and then I incorporated that as a coach as well. You see a lot more motions and shifts nowadays, and all that is just a different way of formationing someone to death, right? Lining up in this formation one play and this formation the next, but doing the exact same play, right? Whether you have literally a 3-by-1 where it's 3 receivers, 1 receiver into the boundary with the back to the boundary. That's 3-by-1, 3 receivers to the right, the 1 to the left. Or you have a 2 tight end set with tight end on the left, tight end on the right, 2 receivers to your right. You're still in 3-by-1, so you can still run the exact same pass concept because it's still 3-by-1, right? You can still run all of the 3-by-1 concepts that you have in your system, just at a completely different formation, right? And so there, and then you can motion, then you can line up in that and motion somebody across. So it really is. That's what I love about football. And the older I've gotten, I've loved the chess matches between the coordinators. So, but you can do all of those things while still keeping the plays and the calls very, very similar. So very excited about what Coach Elliott's going to bring to the offense Saturday, and would be really funny to see him inserted back as the O-line coach, and we rush for like 250, right? And Sellers has got 50 yards rushing on zone reads and QB draws, and you got Fuller and you got Attaway and Faison each get about 70 yards a clip, and I would love that. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't know. I'm kind of yet to be determined, because Oklahoma's defense their front's probably the best in the conference, them or A&M. But I think now's when you pour on the confidence, the positivity, and keep your players uplifted, because, I mean, nobody wants to say this, nobody wants to hear it, but last year, and I know we lost a couple heartbreakers, but last year we were limping back into the Oklahoma game, and we go on the road, and as a fan base, we're sitting around like, oh boy, 3-3 on the road to Oklahoma, and we went out there and hammered. And so can we do the same thing? Mateer's going to turn the ball over. Clayton White defense is going to get turnovers. What do we do with those turnovers? That's the question of the 2025 team.
Yeah, after the 3 that they forced last weekend, 18 straight Power 4 games where South Carolina's defense has turned their opponent over, and they're going to have to find a way to make it 19. Now, Carolina turned it over themselves a couple times last weekend. They won the turnover battle and still lost the game, and they ran it well, et cetera, et cetera. Also, with the Perry, everything you've been referencing with the inside zone and things like that, of the stuff that Sean likes to do, he likes his football teams to do, that is really feeds into something that Mike Shula likes to do, which is play action. So we'll see how that all kind of comes together this weekend. Those things can go hand in hand, as we all well know. All right, I got to get you out of here in about a minute. So I'll give you some final thoughts. Gamecock defense last weekend, obviously a couple big plays that LSU made on their end. They did have a mismatch in the Trey'Dez Green kid at tight end. He seemed to be the answer to every problem that they had. But once again, they gave their football team a chance to win. I know you're a big Clayton White fan, and you just mentioned them just a moment ago. So some final thoughts, including from the defense this weekend, and maybe they have to score another touchdown for Carolina to get out of there, but a win would be a win at this point.
Yeah, continue to force Mateer into throwing the ball. I'm looking at his stats right now. Through 6 games, he's got 6 picks, and I know he threw 3 last week, but still, that's not a number you want to major in. You don't want to major in a pick every game. So continue to force turnovers. I see this game going very similar to last week. If you take away our turnovers, take away the fumble, right? That's 3 points you just handed them, right? Take that away, and with a few more explosive plays on offense, I mean, we win the football game. Mm-hmm. We lost 20-10. We had the ball 17-10 in LSU territory, driving down the field late in the game. I mean, you're right there on the road. Can we do the same against Oklahoma? Absolutely. I think Oklahoma's defense is a little bit more challenging, but I think, again, I still think that we have players. I still think that we have one of the best, if not the best, quarterback in the country. And so I think that do I predict South Carolina wins? No, but I don't think that I think that it's going to be a very interesting game. I think you're going to see a very spirited team. Coach Beamer has a way of kind of igniting that fire when all hope is lost. I mean, how many times has Coach Beamer's teams just turned it around when you're like,
a lot?
I remember saying to a friend the night we played Tennessee in 2022, after we got boat raced the week before in Florida and we're playing terrible football, I literally told him, I said, we have a 0% chance to win. It was after Tennessee had beat Missouri like a drum up there in Knoxville. I said, we have a 0% chance to win. I've never said that in my life. 0. And we went out and beat them like the redheaded stepchild. And we, I'm not saying we'll do that Saturday, but Coach Beamer does have a way of kind of igniting his troops and getting them ready for battle when everybody's like, all right, let's turn to basketball, or hey, we're going to go to the fair, or whatever. So we're still rocking with the boys, and I expect a big performance Saturday.
That was the most improbable night in my 40 years of going to Carolina football games.
There's no question about it.
I've seen a lot of upsets, Perry. I've seen a lot of upsets with this program over the years, a lot of them from when I was a kid to now. All of them were things that you could envision. Maybe it didn't seem likely. Maybe it did seem likely. That one is at the very top. There's not a close second. It didn't come out of left field. It came out of the field on the other side of the country, their left field. I mean, it was the most improbable upset in my 40 years of watching Gamecock football. I've never seen anything like it. Thank you, buddy. I know you got to go. Thanks for jumping in early this week.